Okay, so yesterday I recorded a video. Was on a very heavy topic, and I saw that I lost a few subscribers there. I get it. Some of these topics are going to be heavier than others, and I definitely think that's a topic that people are going to have to come back and see. I think that's a very sensitive topic, so I didn't expect people to get that one at first, but that's just part of preaching. That's just part of putting your ideas out there into the zeitgeist. Is some of them will be rejected. That doesn't mean that you let go of your beliefs. That doesn't mean that whatever that may mean. But today, we got a big topic right here. And it's the topic of God and Christianity. And I'm going to make the case to you today that God is not dead, but Christianity is. Okay. This is actually the longest section in my manifesto, the Overman's Manifesto. There'll be a link for it if you want to download it in the description. As I said, that will always be free, although in 2026, I probably will put it in the book format and sell it, because in America, if you don't sell things to people, they won't see the value in it. So you will always be able to have a copy of it, download the PDF for free. I didn't write this for profit. It is my manifesto. It is what I believe about reality. It is what I believe about the world. And I do believe that it is the key to America and humanity shifting forward. And so today I want to talk about the biggest section in here, which is about God. And Christianity. It is the end of 2025, and I'm gonna say some very strong things in this video. If you're Christian or Jewish or any type of religious person, I'm gonna say some pretty strong things, and I believe them. I'm not saying them for shock value. I'm not saying them to rile people up. I don't. These are not things that I would debate if people were here, like actually interested in what I believed and they actually had real critiques of it. That's fine. I think that's healthy conversation. And that's just part of everybody being different. But some of the things that I'm going to say in your religion, they're blasphemy. But to me, it's not blasphemy. I believe the things that I'm going to say in this video are much closer to the truth than what we see modern Jewish or Christians teach, believe, and practice. Okay? So let's jump into it, because this is thick, this is heavy, and hopefully I'll try to keep this under 2 hours. All right, here we go. So God, page 77 of the Manifesto, Overman's Manifesto. God didn't die. Christianity did. Or at least the version of Christianity that thought it could trap infinity in a book, bind mystery to a creed, and dress the unknowable in robes and rituals. That version is not just outdated, it's broken. See, I don't believe that God is some old man in the sky waiting to applaud your behavior or punish your instincts. I don't believe that God is tallying sins like some cosmic accountant. And I don't believe for 1 second that the creator of the universe needed to stage a murder scene with his own son to feel loved. If your story of God begins with a father sending his son or sending his child to die for his own fuck up, that's not religion. That's bad parenting. That's trauma with a steeple. Let's talk about the onset of Christianity and the basis of it. Grew up in a Christian household. My mom jumped between various different Christian cults. Right now, she's in the Jehovah's Witnesses. I grew up in a cult called the International Churches of Christ. Later rebranded to the International Christian Churches, and now later rebranded to the Restored Church Worldwide. That was a cult. And I say from 2008 to 2016, I was a leader in that cult. So I often say that I was a former cult leader. I got up to the highest, just about one of the highest ranks you could get. I was a church leader in charge of a whole, nonprofit 501c13, preached every week. And so my background in the Bible is very extensive. My practice, I've baptized many people, preached hundreds of sermons, thousands of Bible studies, and read the Bible cover to cover 5 times. So My background in Christianity, my background in practicing, living out the religion, even after and before that time in the ICC, is extensive. I just want to come straight out the gate. The fact that we have to manipulate the idea that a father sacrificing his son is the greatest act of love in human history is some of the sickest form of manipulation ever. And it's worked great for 2,000 years. This idea that we're sinners, we the humans are at fault, and that we need God. Not that God needs us, but we need God. And that in order to have that relationship with God, God needed to sacrifice his one and only son. You're just a bad fucking dad, bro. You're just a bad dad. Just call a spade a spade. Under no other circumstances is this a honorable, a loving thing to do. And then especially if you're going to guilt trip those people. The idea that we're supposed to be grateful because you killed your son, out of my face. Out of my face. But I get it when you're young and you're impressionable and you're not educated. That story seems beautiful. That story seems amazing. Like, man, God loved me so much. When you are a son, man, God would trade his son for me. That's the way it comes across. The creator of the universe would trade his one and only son just for me. If nobody else ever became a Christian, he would do it just for me. You don't realize it, but that is so egotistical. That is so narcissistic by both the God and the worshiper. Because the idea that you are so fucking important that the creator of the universe needed to sacrifice his son just to get close to you, just to have a relationship with you. And the fact that God would do it is nuts. It's nuts. And the caveats can come, well, you don't understand it, You don't, as a Christian, you have to believe that. You don't have a choice. You have to accept this idea that God killed his only son just because you were so special. And when you begin to see it like what it is, and you might not understand this until you hold your first child. When you hold your first child, I remember I got 3 girls, and I remember, my first child. And they always say, oh man, the first time you hold your child, it's going to be different. It's going to change your life. And I'm sitting there going like, duh, nigga, like, I'm going to be a father then, I can't explain it. To parents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't explain it. The first time I held my child, it seemed like life made sense. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. I get what all this was worth. This makes sense now. I understand. And the idea that you would have to sacrifice that, you would break that love, and then guilt someone about the love that you broke, it doesn't work. And we know this now. But it's deeper than that. But this is the way that we are going to look at God. This is the way that we're going to look at Christianity. We are not going to look at Christianity as if it's this divine religion that is beyond critique and beyond understanding and beyond mystery. No, that was back when motherfuckers couldn't read. That was back when the church did not allow people to read the Bible. Yeah, you can make yourself be divine. Absolutely. We can read now. And we are going to treat the book, the text, the beliefs, and the practices just as if you guys are humans just like us. Y'all put on y'all pants one leg at a time just like us. And I'm here to say that my ideas are better than your God. The way that I live and practice my life is better than your God is depicted in your book. And I have a belief system that works better for all of humanity than what the Jews or the Christians teach. I'm not trying to get anybody rage baited. This is what I sincerely believe. And we're going to go through that right now. And part of it is taking religion, taking what people said is divine and bringing it back down to earth, because what? A lot of us have had the exact same Christian experience, although we've come from many different vantage points of Christianity. Here we go. The critique of Christianity's foundational beliefs isn't coming out of nowhere. It's not aimed at people who quietly live out their faith, love their families, and draw meaning from ancient stories. If that were all Christianity was, the critiques wouldn't exist. But Christianity in America and in much of the world is not just a belief system. It's a power structure, and every power demands critique. Every religion in history has tried to explain the unknown. Every people group has tried to make sense of suffering, love, death, and the divine. And in that regard, Christianity is just one more story in the library of humanity's spiritual imaginations. The problem isn't that Christians believe their story. The problem is that they've weaponized it. Christianity didn't just claim access to God. It claimed a monopoly on God. It didn't say, this is how we see it. It said, this is the only truth, believe it or burn. And then it built governments, armies, and social systems around that threat. It manipulated law. It stigmatized dissent. It hijacked education, science, and morality. It called itself humble while demanding global obedience. That's not faith. That's conquest dressed as scripture. And so when you hear people push back against Christianity today, understand something. They're not trying to hurt Christians. They're trying to stop Christians from hurting everyone else. We are no longer giving Christians the benefit of the doubt. We're no longer treating your book, your Bible, your beliefs as if they're holier than thou, because they are not. They are not. We are treating Christians, particularly here in America, exactly like who you are. Hypocrites who voted for a pedophile, treasonous person in office. That's who we're treating Christians as. And you will never, ever, 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 ever for the rest of human history be able to deny that claim, because it's all in 4K. You guys turned your churches into right-wing propaganda. You guys turned your YouTube channels, your Christian YouTube channels, your Christian Instagram channels into right-wing fascist propaganda so that pedophiles could take over our country and sell us out to a foreign state. So when I say Christians are easily manipulated, I go back to the original story of Jesus and God. This idea that a father would sacrifice his son and then guilt trip the rest of humanity for that. That's a bad father. And if you can't see that that's a bad father, you would be easy to manipulate. As a child with no father, I was easy to manipulate. But when I became a father, that shit made no fucking sense. No fucking sense. And I'm not giving Christians the benefit of the doubt any longer, because aside from the president, we know that the Catholic priests touched little boys. We know that the church is often where the pedophiles and the child abusers live, and where they go to church and where they hide out. We know that a woman who gets sexually assaulted, she can't go to the church for help. We know that if a baby needs formula, the church will not help. And your Lord and Savior makes taking care of the needy a salvation issue. Your Lord and Savior says that if anyone causes any one of these little ones to sin, to tie a millstone around their neck and throw them into the sea. We know what the book says, and we know that you don't live it out, and so we are going to treat you as such, because that's what Jesus did. We must critique Christianity for what it actually is and not what it purports to be. And what we find throughout human history, more than anything else, for famine, for war, for genocide, for slavery, for corruption, for greed, for profit, for transphobia, for homophobia, for xenophobia. The name of God has been used more than anything else to justify the worst hatreds of society and commit the most vile acts against humanity. And for the past 2,000 years, Christians have driven that. Christians have driven that. No, you're not getting the benefit of the doubt. No, as a collective, again, like I said, if it was just about believing these stories, living with your family, creating, but that's not what it does. Because oftentimes the people who are just absorbing, the message for themselves, inherently that's the problem, because you became a Christian for you. And so you turn a blind eye to all the wickedness that goes on in your own community, in your own church, because God is blessing you because you're a Christian. Narcissism, yeah. A spiritual narcissism, 100%. You're part of the problem too. You're part of the problem too. Because when you find out about that preacher, you find out about that youth minister that's doing what they're not supposed to be doing, you don't call for their execution like Jesus Christ did. Now all of a sudden the language is figurative. We are going to treat Christians as they actually have been in history and not who they purport to be, because our lives depend on it. If you believe in Jesus and it brings peace to your home, go in peace. But if your belief fuels policies that denies other rights, if your story becomes a justification for another's oppression, if religion demands my silence while it writes itself into law, then yeah, we are at war with you and with your God. But that's because you weaponized him. The truth is, the greatest critiques of Christianity today aren't coming from Satanists or secularists. They're coming from former Christians, from ex-pastors, from people who led worship, who studied theology and served their communities, people who gave their entire hearts to the faith and walked away because it no longer aligned with truth, because it no longer aligned with justice, because it no longer aligned with universal consciousness, with the body, or with the world around them. They didn't leave because they lost their way. They left because they found it. We will treat Christianity like the cesspool it is because we lived Christianity. Your critiques are not coming from people who worship Satan. Them niggas don't give a fuck about you. They doing their own thing, enjoying life. The critiques of Christianity, the critiques of Israel, are coming from people who have experienced Christianity in Israel. And yes, we are going to continue to critique you 100%. And you can hide behind your religion all you want to, and that's fine. My argument is simple. If you weaponize your God and I have to go through your God, I will kill your God. That's what I'm saying. No God has ever outlasted humanity. Ever. It's not possible. Ain't nobody praying to Zeus these days. Don't nobody give a fuck about Poseidon. No God will outlive humanity. So yes, if we now need to kill the Christian God so that more human lives no longer have to suffer, then that's what the fuck we are going to do. And I think you Christians really have it fucked up right now. I don't care what the people of the past believed. We have experienced the church. We have watched the church. We have witnessed its wickedness. We have endured its abuse, and we are saying no more. I don't care how you feel about this, Christians. I don't care what you think. Your religion requires you to be less intelligent than me. Your religion requires you to be less passive than me. Your religion requires you to love your enemies. Stop with the pretending. You are not like Jesus. You are weaponizing the name of Jesus for your own spiritual narcissism. And we're calling that shit out now. And we are going to be aggressive. And the reason why we are going to be aggressive is because you're trying to silence us. You're trying to make it legal to oppress us. You're trying to rip away our friends, our families. You're trying to destroy our communities. Suck our dicks, nigga. If your God tells you can do that, then I'm fucking your God up. What choice are you giving me? You're not giving me another choice. There's no other option here. You're trying to write yourself into law. You're trying to force it on us, and we're going, no, you're wrong. See, all around the world, people are deconstructing Christianity. People are deconstructing the Catholic Church. People are deconstructing Judaism. They're deconstructing it all over the world. There's nothing you can do to stop it. There is nothing you can do to stop it. We are ahead of the curve. And we understand that voting in a pedophile, we understand that tying your country to Israel, we understand these are your last spasms to try to get power. We get it. But we've had it up to here with you niggas. I don't care if there's 1 billion Christians on earth. There's 7 billion non-Christians. Get your shit together. Learn how to live with the rest of us, or it's up. That's not our fault. You keep weaponizing your religion. So it's a weapon. And that makes it dangerous. And when you guys are trying to write yourself into law, when you're trying to tell women what they can or cannot do with their body, when you're trying to tell trans people what they can and cannot do, when you're trying to rob people of their actual citizenship, we have to fuck you up. Like, I don't know what you want. We're not you. We don't stand by and let pedophiles run our churches. We don't stand by and let politicians take over our pulpits. We're just not you. So if you got to go down with this, if you got to go down with your idea of God, so be it, bro. So be it. But that's not on us. We will live in harmony. And we do live in harmony with Christians who are normal. 100%, man. Again, to this day, if y'all actually follow Jesus, I think you guys would be some of the best people on planet Earth. I really do believe that. That's why I follow Jesus. That's why I read the Bible cover to cover 5 times in my life. Because if you guys were actually following Jesus, the world would be a better place. But y'all don't actually follow Jesus. Y'all don't actually try to live the way he lived. You guys are just weaponizing the theology to make yourself feel better about yourself, and so that you can be on the winning team, because the God of the Bible's morality is if you're on my team, you're right. And if you're not on my team, you're wrong. Look at the Jews. In 2,000 years, 109 countries have expelled these people from their country. And somehow I'm to believe that all 900 countries were wrong? Like, at what point do they go, maybe it's me? And now we have to act like they're not committing genocide? I just have to pretend like that's not going on? You're not oppressed. That's not oppression. That's not oppression. You're weaponizing victimhood, and you've been doing it forever, just like the Christians do. Oh, our God was crucified. Yeah, the fucking people committing the genocide did it, bro. What are we doing right now? Like, none of it makes sense anymore, guys. You're showing your true colors. Even in your book, what Israel is doing right now, it would warn Jesus to speak out against the Jewish leadership today. Y'all don't believe that shit. It's just a weapon to be used against us, and we are calling your bluff. That's not religion. That's power, and power demands critique. One of the most damning critiques of Christianity is not just in its theology, it's in its architecture, the architecture of its churches, the architecture of its hierarchy, the architecture of its belief system, because for all this talk about humility, about truth, about accountability, Christianity, as it functions in modern America, has become a playground for the narcissists, a place where the boldest liars, the most charismatic manipulators rise to the top, not in spite of the belief system, but because of it. A system that teaches only God can judge me becomes a shelter for the unrepentant. A system that says God knows my heart becomes a cloak for the corrupted. A system that glorifies mercy without consequence becomes a stage for performers who have no actualized faith, just a costume and a microphone. That is not an accident. It's a design flaw. Or worse, it's a feature. Because when you weaponize belief, power-hungry people come for the weapon. They always do. And when those in the church refuse to speak out against it, when they stay silent while narcissists hijack pulpits and manipulate masses, they become complicit in the harm. Even Donald Trump knew this. He didn't believe in Jesus, but he knew how to hold a Bible upside down and smile for the cameras. And millions of Christians followed him anyway. That's not faith. That's a cult in crisis. And if you believe, and if your belief system keeps producing narcissists at the top or attracting grifters like moth to light, then your belief system needs to be re-examined, not protected with censorship or cries of persecution, but stripped of its power it has abused and reimagined from the ground up. You niggas are not like Jesus. You're not like Jesus. You can't convince me Jesus of the Bible would have voted for Donald Trump or supported Donald Trump. And by the way, Christians, I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care if I didn't vote for him. No. You don't get to do that. Y'all, because that's what I'm saying. Your spiritual narcissism has made you forget that you're a part of a greater community. And your greater community of Christianity literally voted for Donald Trump. Literally the greatest con man in American history. And guys, it's in 4K. So it don't even matter what I say. It don't matter what you think. 100 years from now, when we're all gone and new humans have picked up the pen of history, they're not going to read about what the Christians did. They're going to watch it in 4K. Y'all worried about the surveillance states of the United States government. I'm worried about the surveillance states of the future. Them niggas are looking at us right now. They're looking at us right now. I know, Christians. I know. That doesn't make sense in your head. I know. Like I said, lean not on your own understanding. It's a requirement to be less intelligent to be a Christian. I'm not being mean. Open your book. You're not allowed to use your own brain if it leads you away from God, if it leads you away from the faith. If your conscious thoughts lead you away from Christ, then something's wrong. You're not allowed to have the thoughts that I'm allowed. You're not allowed to play with the unknown in the way. You're not allowed to be as creative as I am. You're a slave to a very small subset of beliefs that makes you easy to manipulate so that a con man can convince you that God and guns are your savior and that it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's one of these things where you hear Christians talk, oh, we're being persecuted. Only governments can persecute Christians. Nobody's persecuting Christians in the United States of America. We just don't like you niggas. We just don't like y'all. That's not persecution. But in your spiritual narcissism, you think that everybody is required to like you. Or why wouldn't they like us? We have such good beliefs. We have such a good... No, you don't. No, you don't. The terrible beliefs. The horrible beliefs. They're horrible practices. And you guys don't do anything for the children. That's where the children go to get abused, manipulated, deceived, tricked. You guys are horrible people as a collective. And no, you can't keep going, well, not me. I know, man. But nobody's persecuting y'all. You guys are just obnoxious. You're just obnoxious religious people. And we're done. We're done. So whatever y'all want to do, we can do. But even the normal Christians don't fuck with y'all like that, bro. Like even the people who actually follow Jesus, they don't even fuck with y'all like that. So we're done. Religion is meant to guide us through time, but Christianity clings to a myth written for empires long ago. We are trying to move forward. They are trying to drag us back. They weaponize nostalgia, call it morality, and punish anyone who dares to imagine a God bigger than their books. So yes, we critique it. Because silence is not neutral when someone else's story is being used to write laws that govern your body, your children, your rights, and your future. Christianity must be critiqued, not because we hate it, but because it refuses to let go of power. And any belief that demands power is no longer a belief, it's a regime. Christians, you can have your Christian theocracy. You can make America a Christian nation again. All that. That's fine. But understand what you're doing. If you make your religion the foundation of government, then everybody will forever critique your government. You can't force us to believe in your government and call it freedom. You also can't force us to believe in something and to adopt your principles, adopt your way of life into law, and then claim you're following Jesus. So we're going to keep critiquing it. We're going to keep destroying you guys in debates. We're going to keep showing how your what you believe is not found in, like, there's no evidence for what you believe. And people like me are going to do it more and more aggressively because we're sick of it. You're trying to tell us what to do with our bodies. You're trying to tell us what to do with our children. You're trying to tell us what we can. No, nigga, no. Y'all niggas suck at following Jesus. You're not telling me how to live. I will live how I want to live. And you will not shove your religion down my throat. It's not happening. I will fight back. And I will show you how your God is smaller than me. I will show you how my morality is better than your God's. I will show you how my way of life is better than yours. I'm ready to go life for life with most Christians right now. Check the data. There's no difference between how Christians live their lives and how regular people live their lives. You guys are just weaponizing nostalgia. You guys are weaponizing a belief system that's been in place for a long time to do some very wicked and corrupt things and to appease your conscience. And we are calling that shit out from here on out. What I believe is this. God is the unknown, and Christianity, like every religion before and after it, was just one generation's attempt to name the infinite, to give form to the formless, meaning to meaninglessness. That's not evil. That's human. That's what we do. We name things to make them feel smaller. We narrate the void to feel less alone inside of it. But Christianity made a mistake. It didn't just name God. It claimed God. It said only through us. It said only this story. It said believe what we tell you or burn forever. And once you attach God to fear, control, and politics, you no longer have a God. You have a product. You have a brand. You have a pipeline of obedience. But here's the thing. Information kills fear. And fear was always the fuel. That's why the early church didn't want you to read the Bible. That's why they crucified question askers and heretics and mystics. That's why they still fight evolution, science, and history, because every new truth exposes the old myth, and they don't have the courage to keep going. That's the difference between the believer and the overman. The believer clings, the overman moves, because information breaks the spells. Information exposes the lie. Jesus Christ is not coming back. He is 2,000 years late. He is not coming because he never was. And he is not the Son of God. He was a powerful myth written in the empire and now weaponized against reason. And no, your delusion is not sacred just because you called it religion. If you cannot prove that a man resurrected from the dead without saying the Bible tells me so, then stop telling people they're obligated to respect your fantasies. My beliefs were forged in fire, through loss, through reason, through seeking. Yours were handed down and shielded from scrutiny by law. That's not faith. That's cowardice. And the people are done pretending that we have to tiptoe around it. If Jesus gives your family hope, that's beautiful. Keep your ritual, keep your story, but do not confuse the tool with the truth, and do not weaponize that story against those of us who are still bold enough to go looking. The idea that we found the truth 2,000 years ago is the antithesis to human life. From the second you were born, you were trying to discover. You were trying to navigate the unknown. Things go from unknown to known, unknown to known. And as that happens, you get more and more information. And humanity, like a newborn, over the course of time, gets more and more information. And we often call the internet the democratization of information. And now that everybody has access to the information, we can tell the honest truth now. We know that the Bible was not sent from heaven. We know that the people who claim to write the Bible did not write the Bible. We know that Moses wasn't real. We know Jesus existed, probably. But we know the people who claim to write those books did not write those books. We know that these are myths. We know that the Bible was compiled together hundreds of years later and other things thrown out of it. We know that the church did not allow people to read the Bible for hundreds of years. We know about the Inquisitions. We know about the Crusades. Stop. You're not moral. Your God has been used to commit more injustices than anything else in human history. And we're not tiptoeing around that fact. If you want to follow Jesus, please follow Jesus. That nigga knew what he was talking about. But if you're just here to weaponize Christianity, if you're just here to weaponize your religion, fam, suck my dick. Whatever y'all want to do is what we gonna do then. Whatever you want to do is what we're gonna do, but we're done. We're done. And that's what y'all gotta get. We are gonna hold you accountable for how you actually live, not what you profess to believe. Because we're required to. We're required to. And you guys are trying to act like it's not a regime at this point. You guys are trying to act like our country just wasn't handed over to a foreign state because of you guys. It was the Christians who couldn't decipher that Donald Trump was a con man. It was the Christians who were easily manipulated and told that this is your God, the radical left is against you. It's the Christians who perpetuate racism and slavery. Stop. You're not moral people. You're not ethical people. You're inhumane people, and you use your religion all throughout human history to do some inhumane shit. That's just what it is. I don't care how you feel about that. If you feel some type of way about it, leave that group or stop supporting bullshit. Call people out in your group when they do that shit. Stand for something. Y'all don't call each other out. Y'all don't call each other out. So we got to. We got to. A non-Christian has to be the Jesus of this generation because y'all are too pussy to call out the Jewish leadership of this day. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? That modern day Judaism is basically comes from the Pharisaical, right? The Pharisees or rabbinical Judaism. Jesus had to call out the Jewish religious leaders of his day. But now we ain't got no Christians in America calling out the Jewish religious leaders of these days as they commit genocide, as they hijack your government. Stop. You are not a Christian. You are not following Jesus. And according to that religion, if you died today, you go to hell. Y'all don't have what it takes to stand up to power like Jesus Christ did. You don't. You guys bend your knee towards power. You're nothing like Jesus. You're not like the apostles. You're trying to live on the back of their glory, their fabricated glory. You can't prove how Jesus Christ rose from the dead without going, the Bible says it. So what? So what? Never happened. Never happened. I don't feel no type of way about it. You're the one who feels some type of way about it because it's spiritual narcissism. It's spiritual narcissism. You think that event or that fact is supposed to make everybody bend to what you believe, or that's why you believe what you believe. No, bro. Information kills fear. We're not afraid to tell the truth anymore. And we're not afraid to say that you weaponize truth. That you weaponize the idea of truth. We're not doing it anymore. The Overman sees God not as a figure, but as a frequency, not as a man, but as a mystery, not as a rule book, but as a rhythm. The Overman isn't an atheist, he's something deeper. He doesn't reject God. He rejects the lie that we've already found him because we haven't. We are standing on a rock in an infinite cosmos pretending we got the answers locked down in a creed from 2,000 years ago. That's not faith. That's cowardice. That's intellectual sedation. God didn't die. We just stopped looking. And if there's one thing I know about universal consciousness, about the infinite unfolding we're all part of, is that it doesn't care what story you believe. It only asks you to keep moving, to keep seeking, to keep pushing the edge of what's possible. And that's the future of God. Not one name, not one book, but an eternal question that only the brave still dare to ask. We live in an era where no major religion has emerged in over 1,000 years, not because the mystery hasn't been solved, but because we stopped asking questions big enough to demand new answers. There's a silence of new gods. In the axial age, when people looked up to the stars and saw gods, they didn't have access to satellites or DNA or telescopes, but they had wonder. They had fear. They had the courage to create stories that could carry generations across the void. Their myths were maps, guides for navigating the unknown. Religion at its best was a set of tools for traveling through uncertainty with purpose. You know, this is the biggest violence Christianity has had against humanity. Is that because we've for so long as a world just accepted this belief and accepted that they're allowed to dominate because of what they believe. We're not imagining new gods, man. We're not being as creative. We're not creating myths. Look at our entertainment industry. Our entertainment industry is a bunch of repackaged and repurposed old movies. Because we got this idea that we're supposed to have it all figured out in this lifetime. That we figured out the truth 2,000 years ago. No, it's not that God died. We stopped looking for him. We treat atheism today, or we treat agnosticism today like it's some type of moral ill. No, it's not. It means we're still looking. It means we're still alive. It means humanity is still growing, still wondering what could be, still imagining, still willing to try, still having the courage to fail, still having the faith to go into the unknown. The atheism and agnosticism aren't mental illness or like mental malfunctions or a loss of morality. They are people who are still brave enough to ask. And that's my fucking problem with Christians. Just because you hoe-ass niggas are too afraid to ask bigger questions that demand bigger answers doesn't mean something's wrong with the rest of us. We are the ones living by faith. You are living by a rule book. Shut the fuck up. The real niggas are trying to figure some shit out. We are trying to ask questions. We are having conversations. We're debating. We're challenging each other to new ideas. We're trying to imagine new systems, and y'all want to hold us back. That's the greatest sin Christianity has done over the past 2,000 years. They've held us back. They've held our imagination back. They've held our voices back. They've held our bodies back. So much needless suffering. Because of God and because of religion. No, we need to ask bigger questions. Otherwise, small people are going to keep us trapped. But now, we've confused knowing more with being wiser. We've inherited stories for desert tribes and Bronze Age empire and tried to apply them to quantum physics, digital consciousness, and interstellar expansion. The mismatch is staggering, and yet we cling. Not because the stories still work, but because we're afraid to write new ones. We've mistaken obedience for faith. Power has hijacked meaning, and religion has become a cage for the unknown, not a compass within it. But the hunger hasn't gone away. We feel it in cults, in conspiracies, in charismatic madmen who promise to bring order to chaos. These are not glitches in the systems. They are proof that the spirit of myth is alive. We're still looking for gods, but we've forgotten how to build them. It's not that God has died. It's that we've stopped imagining him. We've stopped mythologizing with integrity. We've stopped playing with the infinite like children once did with stars. And now we face the infinite with fear instead of creativity. The unknown demands new myth, not ones that demand worship, but ones that demand courage. Myths that don't shrink us into obedience, but invite us into meaning. If the past gave us religion to survive the desert, maybe the future demands we create something new to survive the void. My basis for reality is this: the self, society, and the unknown. That's what's real. Yourself, which is comprised of universal consciousness, you may call it a soul or spirit, your body, and your environment. That makes up you, who you are. A society, whether you want to call it community, whatever, just as long as you understand what I'm trying to communicate. Your society, okay, is the collection of selves coming together, because every individual self is a meaning maker. We are a piece of universal consciousness actualized. We are infinity realized. And in our lifetimes, every human being is the universe getting to know itself. And so our entire life from birth until death is about creating meaning. And so a society is when a bunch of meaning makers come together and have shared meaning. And then the last part of reality is the unknown. It's the unknown. And it's the biggest part of reality, because we now live under this myth that we're supposed to have everything figured out, that we're supposed to know exactly what to do. And life is about, okay, first you go to school, then you go to college, and after college, you get a career, and then you meet somebody, and then you guys date for a couple years, and then you get married. No. We're not supposed to know. We're actually supposed to go from unknown to unknown and discovering this is why. And yes, while the wealth gap has increased drastically and it's going to get worse for many of us have been able to, during this time, travel, be creative, walk through the unknown, and it's much more fulfilling. Many of us have traveled places outside of America, and there is a freedom that there is not felt in America. Why? Because human beings you're not supposed to know everything in your lifetime. You're supposed to figure it out. You didn't know how to talk as a child, but you figured it out. You didn't know how to walk as a child, but you figured it out. You figured it out. And we're no longer trying to figure things out because we got these fucking idiots that has convinced the world that we figured it out thousands of years ago. We're sitting here arguing back and forth. Capitalism, socialism, communism. All of them are stupid. None of them work. We need to think of new systems where money is not at the center. We need to bring our money together and come together as a community so that we can create a society that isn't dependent upon money, and we can burn that money so we're not dependent upon it. That's freedom. That's freedom. But when you're told financial freedom is true freedom, you stop. You just look for your path inside the pyramid of financial freedom. You stop asking bigger questions. That's where we're at. See, God is that pull that calls us to dream more. I'm not saying that God is dead. I'm not saying that God doesn't exist. I'm saying I don't fucking know. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life figuring out. And that sounds fucking exciting. That sounds incredible. That sounds like life is going to be fun. That means that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns. And I'm going to think that I'm right in my 20s, but I'm going to get to my 30s and figure out, holy shit, nigga, you didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. Just like I thought I knew everything at 16, and you did too. When you were 16, you knew everything, only to get to 23 and figure out you didn't know shit. Yes, I don't know what's next. I don't know. That's part of being human. Stop acting like you know what's going to happen 2 minutes from now. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen an hour from now. But you know God exists. But you know Jesus is the Son of God. Even with all the evidence that shows that he's not. You know that? Do you really know that? Or are you too afraid to ask more questions? Let's keep going. Maybe the ancients found what they were looking for. Maybe their gods answered the questions they needed answered. Maybe Jesus made sense in the first century. Maybe Yahweh made sense in the desert. Maybe the pantheons of Greece and Egypt made perfect sense for those navigating morality without microscopes, telescopes, or algorithms. Maybe the gods of the past weren't wrong. They were just on time. But that doesn't mean they're on time now. Because we're not them. We know more. We feel more. We live longer. We see further. We can split atoms and edit genes and simulate worlds inside computers. We are not walking through the desert trying to explain lightning. We are creating lightning in laboratories. And yet, even with all this, we still don't know who we are. We still ache. We still search. We still crave something more because the infinite has not left us. The gods of the past don't guide us anymore. We critique them. We psychoanalyze them. We put them on trial. Our morality has evolved beyond them. The old gods were tribal, vengeful. They played favorites. They ruled by fear and demanded submission, but we've seen too much about that. We've survived too much to shrink again. That doesn't mean that God is dead. It means our idea of God must evolve. God has always been the highest idea we could ever imagine. So maybe we're not supposed to inherit the same gods forever. Maybe each era must imagine its own. Maybe the gods of yesterday were a scaffolding, necessary structure while we built something deeper. Maybe it's our turn. Maybe we haven't found God yet. And that's not our weakness. That's our calling, to reach for something worthy of this age, not a God of war or hierarchy or guilt, but a God of vastness, of depth, of becoming, a God that reflects the infinitude of the universe and the uncharted potential within us, not a story we are forced to accept, but a story we are brave enough to write. This is the era of expansion, the age of creation. It is time we start imagining gods who grow with us, not gods who demand we stay small. Only a couple more pages. I think I am going to keep it under 2 hours. I don't think I'm going to keep it under an hour. You may critique my idea of reality, breaking reality down into the self, society, and the unknown. You may say, well, Gabe, you're missing a lot of stuff. That's fine. Because unlike religions and belief systems of the past, the goal is not to give a grand explanation that forces you into one way of thinking. The goal was to, how do I describe everything most honestly as possible? And the most honest thing I can say about reality is, I don't know most of that shit. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how rich you are. Most of reality, you don't know. And so it makes sense that something that I thought was right at 20 turns out to be wrong at 30 because I get more information. And it makes sense that something I thought was right at 30, I may think is wrong at 50. The goal was not to create a system that you believe this and it's going to answer all your questions. No, the goal was to awaken you and go, no, guys, we're not supposed to find a system that works. That's the problem with capitalism, socialism, and communism. What system works? There is no system outside of humanity, guys. You want to end capitalism? Cancel your Amazon Prime account. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. Nobody's stopping you from not shopping at corporations. Nobody's stopping you from doing local. Nobody's stopping you from not making money the center of your life. Nobody's stopping you. It's just the unconscious way and your fear of social ostracization and what that means and navigating the unknown, getting back to what it means to be a human, not knowing what's next, having the faith to go, I don't believe in this system, so I'm not contributing to it. Having that faith to navigate what you don't know. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be clinging to these people in the past. We're supposed to be building off of it. We're supposed to be building off of it. And so the goal wasn't to, hey guys, believe what I believe and it'll fix all your problems. No, the goal is believe what I believe and it will awaken you to new beliefs. It will make you more alive. Consciousness doesn't know. And its goal is to know. But once it knows, it can no longer accomplish its goal of trying to know. The unknown is a big part of reality. And we can't, just because we don't have the answers, doesn't mean that we don't have faith. And it doesn't mean that we don't act like we don't know that about what's wrong. Maybe I don't know the right answer, but I know that the way that the Christians have been living for the 2,000 years is wrong. I know that the way that organized religion has been doing things is wrong. I know that that's wrong. And I know that what's happening in my country right now, it's wrong. Maybe I don't have all the answers, but that's part of being human. And I won't start being able to figure out the answer until I stop putting so much energy into what I know is wrong and start putting energy into what I believe is right. It's that simple. No system exists outside of humanity. You live differently, the system comes down overnight. That's the power of spirituality. That's the power of humanity. Our ancestors dreamed of gods who could command weather, control crops, raise the dead. But today, our 6-year-olds know things the ancients couldn't even imagine. Our phones do more than their prophets. Our satellites reach further than their heavens. Our questions go deeper than their answers. And yet, we're still clinging to their gods. They will call us gods. They will burn us at the stake for things we do casually, and still we dare to let them define us. We let men who knew nothing of DNA, mental health, black holes, or gender identity write the eternal truths of the universe. No, that is not progress. That is paralysis. The ancients looked to the sky and imagined gods. They heard thunder and called it divine wrath. They saw lightning and called it a message. They watched the sun rise and believed it was pulled by a chariot of fire. Everything they couldn't explain became sacred. Everything beyond their reach became holy. God was how they named the unknown. But what happens when you can name it? What happens when you can harness the electricity, crack DNA, speak to each other through glass, and build flying machines that circle the planet in hours? What happens when we solve the riddles they wrote into scriptures? What happens when the myths become tools and the miracles become science? The answer is simple. We become the gods they dreamed of. If you dropped a teenager today in the world of 400 BCE, that child would be a god, able to speak multiple languages, able to explain stars, shadows, germs, music, able to summon light, able to record time, able to preserve memory, able to speak to someone across the world. That's not exaggeration. That's perspective. Godness, as it turns out, is relative. The past was always dreaming of the present. The ancients were always reaching for us. And now that we're here, now that we've become what they imagined, what do we do? Do we continue pretending the gods are only found in books? Do we continue outsourcing divinity to imaginary beings while the real power sits idle inside of us? Or do we finally accept the terrifying, beautiful truth? We are the gods now. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the children, about school shootings, about what happened to my nonverbal autistic daughter at school. Fuck you, Paula. Fuck 4J. Forever. It's because when you have empathy and you care for children and you put the children first, a lot of we wouldn't have these issues. Why are we talking about the economy when school shootings are happening? Children are amazing because through their pure wonder, isn't it amazing like having a kid and like how smart they are for their age? Like my 4-year-old, I swear she's a genius. Like I swear this kid's a genius. I like it's just, but I thought that about my oldest. I thought that about my Bella, my nonverbal autistic child. And it's because the way that they engage with the world is so pure. It's so natural. It's so intuitive. And when we appreciate the children, when we revere the children, when for the first time in human history, we give that class of people rights. They're the most oppressed class in human history, children. They're the last group of people to be treated like humans, children, not women, not black people, damn sure ain't white people, children. These are the human beings who are mandated to go to a place that can be shot up in America, only in America. Why are we talking about anything else? You know why? Because when you start talking about the children, everything else it's stupid. Doesn't make. Why are we going back and forth about who rose from the dead? The children are dying in school. What are we doing? And then you watch them grow up, and you watch them do the most amazing things, and you're like every time I see my kids, I'm like, these are the most incredible human beings I've ever seen in my life. I'm proud because I raised them, but at the same time, I know it's not all me. I know a big part of what I find so amazing about them is them. And it's just when you put things in the context of children, a lot of this stuff just makes sense intuitively. And when you look at the children of today versus the gods of the past, you go, nah, bro, I think Abby would fuck Jesus up. Nah, bro. I think if people saw what my 11-year-old could do versus what Jesus could do, bro. My baby girl got her own YouTube channel. She be editing them videos the way she play. I'm just saying, bro. My baby girl got skills. I'm just saying, man. You drop these kids back then, oh my gosh, they're gonna think they're gods. What do you mean you can text on the screen? What do you mean you guys fly around the world? What is flying? What is that on the back of your light? What is light? What, electricity? We're going to be, the next generation is going to be greater than us, guys. And we got to embrace that, because embracing the greatness of the future helps us to honor the past and not get stuck inside of it. And it also helps us understand how great we are. The future needs us to dream of bigger gods. We've outgrown the God of the Bible. We've outgrown Yahweh. We just have. We just have. We can't be full. We can't live to our full potential following them. Not most of us. If you can, but I think the people who can are actually trying to live like Jesus. They're not just signing up for a religion. We are the gods now. And we've always been, not capital G, the infinite unknowing, the breath of consciousness itself, but gods nonetheless, shapers of meaning, benders of matters, deciders of fate, the ones who live in the minds of others long after we're gone. That is godhood. And we bestow it every day on celebrities, on founders, on inventors, on thinkers, on manipulators, on prophets, on liars, on poet, on the dead. We don't just believe in God, we create them. So if we're going to live in a world where godhood is inevitable, where we elevate certain people, certain ideas, certain systems to the level of the divine, then we better be conscious about who we live. We better be intentional about who we worship, because power, once sanctified, is nearly impossible to question. We say Kanye West is arrogant for saying, I am a god. But what is arrogance to someone worship in real time? What is blasphemy when your name is etched into millions of minds? What is the line between prophet and pop star, messiah and media mogul? Who gets to decide? The truth is, we already bow. We already give our gods money, time, attention, and undying loyalty. But most of us do it blindly. We pretend we're to evolve for idols while handing out godhood to influencers, billionaires, broken men who promise us certainty. If God is no longer in the clouds, then he is here on the ground, in the culture, in the systems we build, in the leaders we follow. And maybe the question isn't where is God? Maybe the question is, who are we crowning? Because if we don't keep God in the unknown, we will keep finding him in the mirror. And we better make sure the person staring back is worthy to be followed. To me, America, humanity, getting out of this situation is very simple. And it's very simple for me because I've spent time in a cult. And I've reconciled the fact that I was a cult leader. See, most people, when they leave cults, they only see themselves as victims. But I understand that my time in the cult, I wasn't just a victim. I was a co-conspirator. I didn't help cover up like child abuse, nothing like that. But as far as recruiting people into the cult, I pushed that ideology. I baptized people. I did Bible studies with people. It's my fault people got trapped in there. See, people don't like to take accountability for parts of their life. They leave those groups, call themselves a victim, and they try to forget about it. And in denying that part of your humanity, you miss the power of that. Because when I was a church leader, when I was a leader in that cult, I understood something about divinity that most people don't get. Is literally as simple as who you follow. And if you look at the world, most of us are following people unconsciously. We're following people unconsciously. And because we're unconscious, right? Because we're unconscious, we're not thinking. We're not using our heads. I have 8,000 followers here on YouTube, 14,000 followers here on TikTok. If all my followers gave me $1 a month, just $1 a month, nobody would miss a meal, nobody would miss a bill, and you would have somebody who would fight for your liberation. It's that simple. But we engage with social media unconsciously. We engage with it from this narcissistic, I'm here to be entertained, you're here to give to me. It's like, I hate the idea of Patreon. Why am I about to give you guys more content for a couple bucks? Why am I going to overwork myself making extra videos or doing all this stuff for like $2-3 a month? I'm worth more than that. But we don't see each other like that because we're all living unconsciously. We don't recognize the power that we have. You know who does? The corporations. That's why they make sure they get you on that auto renew every month. That's why everything's a subscription service. They see how much power you have, and they are constantly trying to extract it from you. See, because I've been on the other side of divinity, where people treated my word like it was the word of God, where people went to me to interpret the word of God. My interpretation became the word of God. Because I've been on the other side of divinity, I know where the real power comes from. It doesn't come from the position. It comes from the people's belief in that position. And every day that you guys get on these apps, we get on these apps and we follow people who don't have the character, aren't for us, who are only here to sedate us, entertain us. Because every day we bestow godhood on them. And they become the influencers. They become the voices. And then you get mad at the voices for not speaking up. They were never built like that. You empowered the wrong people. And that you didn't need to wait on a system. You didn't need to wait for capitalism. You didn't wait for racism. You didn't wait for white supremacy. Nothing's stopping anybody from sharing this clip, posting about it, talking about it with your friends, sharing it. That's where the power comes from. And so we need to be more conscious about who we're giving godhood to, because these people influence us, hold God-like power. One more page. God, capital G, God must stay in the unknown, because the moment we know something, truly know it, it can't be God anymore. That's the curse and gift of consciousness. The moment we contain something, we shrink it. The moment we explain something, we reduce its mystery, and God is mystery. God is infinity. God is the call to expansion, not the cage of tradition. It was noble, beautiful even, to want a relationship with God. That ache in the human spirit to be known, to be seen, to be connected. That's universal consciousness waking up in us. That's the illusion of separation cracking. That's what prayer was trying to say. That's what worship was trying to reach. But the idea that the infinite creator of galaxies and atoms would hide more than 99% of his reality from us, then kill his own son just to establish a relationship with people he refuses to fully reveal himself to, doesn't make sense. That story doesn't inspire anymore. It insults our intelligence. We have long imagined God as a being, supreme, sovereign, seated somewhere above the chaos. But what if God is not a being at all? Not material, not even immaterial. What if God is a direction? Not a who, but a where. Not something to be believed in, but something to move towards. God, in this framework, is the forward pull of evolution itself, the invisible gravity dragging consciousness towards higher forms of being, of beauty, of awareness. It is the voice that says, you are not done yet. The force that urges the artist to create, the leader to rise, the child to question, the species to evolve, and perhaps the reason we feel closest to God when we are growing, creating, and sacrificing is because that is what God is. Not a noun, but a verb. Not a ruler, but a rhythm. Not a father, but a future. This is why humans have always needed gods. We crave a symbol for what we cannot name, a shape for the shapeless, a word for the wonder. And as long as we cannot grasp the full scope of that upward pull, we give it names. God, Yahweh, Allah, but the pull is the same. It is always calling us forward, always asking, what will you become next? And just as we seek God, we also long to become one, not in arrogance, but an instinct. As our consciousness expands, so does our desire to shape, to create, to rule, to give meaning, to rise above randomness and speak structure into the void. That is not hubris. It is the echo of the creative force itself living within us. It is the mirror of our origin. We are not chasing God. We are chasing the ability to do what God does. And in 1,000 years, perhaps the children of the future will give name to what we can only now feel. They will map forces we still call mystery. They will will creation the way we fumble with language. And they will look back on us the way we look back on the ancient myths, not as fools, but as foundations. God, then, is not behind us. God is ahead. The divine is not a throne to submit to, but a direction to move in. Not a master to fear, but a force to follow. Not a destination, but the act of becoming creation itself. Chasing God is chasing evolution. And maybe, just maybe, the most sacred act isn't worship. It's walking boldly towards the unknown with faith that we are part of its unfolding. We are in a new age, and in this age, we must stop dragging dead gods into the living future. We need gods that call us forwards. We need mythology that awakens, not mythology that commands. We need to let go of the past, not because it was all wrong, but because we are no longer there. God is not a thing we own. God is not a man we quote. God is not a tool for power. God is the pull towards becoming. And the moment we think we figured God out, we've made ourselves smaller than we were before. We must build the next world, not in the image of men from the past, but the courage to say, what else is out there? What else is possible? What else can we become? God is not behind us. God is ahead. Fundamentally, when it comes to God, I don't consider myself an atheist. I don't even know if I consider myself an agnostic. Maybe that would be the most, politically correct term. But there's something pulling all of us. There's something inside of all of us that looks greater than ourselves. And there's something that makes all of us divine. There's something that makes us to have the ability to come together and build technology and create new ideas, create new systems. And right now in America, we need an unleashing of creative ideas, new ways of imagining the future. We're not building the future. We are literally trying to go back to the past. And guys, we're going to have to fight these guys. You're not going to be able to vote this away. You're not be able to vote it away. And it can get a lot worse before it get better. And it will get a lot worse if we continue to sit on the sidelines and don't dare to dream, dare to walk in the unknown, dare to do the unthinkable, dare to listen to our intuition in a culture and a society that tells us not to. I don't know about God, man. I just know a nigga killing his son, and I'm not worshiping that nigga. I'm sorry, bro. I'm not worshiping him. I'm just not doing it. I don't care, bro. If your God told you to go into the land of Canaan and kill all the women and children, I think that's overkill. I'm not worshiping that nigga. I'm just not doing it. I'm a man who has risked everything so that his nonverbal autistic daughter can have I'm trying to build a world for her. American society does not work for my nonverbal autistic daughter. Therefore, you get the Overman's Manifesto. I'm sorry, man. So I don't know. I don't know where God is. I don't know who to worship. I just know it's not those niggas. And I'm not going to worship them. And you're not going to make me. And if you come over here, I will deconstruct you on sight because I'm really like that. Do not weaponize your God against those of us who are still brave enough to ask questions. If Jesus brings joy, love, peace to your home, and you use the stories to build your character and your family, awesome. We need your help standing up against the people who are using the name of Jesus for acts of violence and oppression. We need your help. We need you to stand up with us because I believe, based upon the stories, that's what Jesus would do. Jesus would be standing up for the most vulnerable. Jesus would be standing up for the immigrants, for the trans people, for black people, for even the poor white guys who get sucked into these horrible pipelines. So, God didn't die. We just need to keep looking for him. Love you guys. Bye.